Welcome to the episode 81 of the Talking Friars podcast. Ben Fadden here today with a special guest, CBS News 8, Carlo Cecchetto, anchor there. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
Ben, fun to talk baseball, man. How you doing?
Yeah, doing well. So first off, kind of wanted to start with San Diego sports kind of in a broader sense. I know this is, a Padres based podcast, but just in a sense, where do you think San Diego is in terms of, success and just where they are in terms of their sports? You got San Diego State, the football team ranked, the basketball team's usually ranked at some point. They played Michigan this year, USC, Georgetown. Obviously, Alex Morgan, that was huge coming with that deal. That's
Yep.
exciting. And then obviously the Padres, Bob Melvin, definitely seems like a better manager than what AJ Preller's last choice or last couple of choices were. So just where do you think the landscape of San Diego sports, I guess, is right now?
Well, I mean, the jewel obviously is the Padres, and the Padres are a jewel. And it's funny because most people know that. Like, I grew up a Dodgers fan, so I'm still a Dodgers fan. But I very much root for the Padres, and I very much pay attention to what they're doing, and I very much admire it. Um, they are a jewel. Petco Park. Let's just stand back and just talk about that. Petco Park's amazing, in an amazing spot in the middle of downtown. What they've done for game day experience has been just perfect. They do a great job on that, incorporating the local restaurants. Their food experience is just unmatched. I had the chance to go to SoFi this year to watch a game up in LA. It is an incredible facility. I will tell you, their food does not come close to what Petco Park offers right now. Maybe that's because they're just getting started in the pandemic or whatever, but it's not close. And that's one of the great things. You can go to a Padres game and you don't have to be a fan. And that's always the thing about baseball, but it can really be just a great night out, day out for friends, for a date, if that's what you're doing with your family. It's unmatched. It is truly a jewel in all of baseball and for San Diego. So we got to start right there, and that's the go point, right? And that's just the truth. They drew more than 3 million last year, right? They have the landscape to themselves, and they are approaching it the way you should if you're the only top tier major league level team in your market. There's no NFL team, there's no MLB team, there's no NHL team. There are minor league teams that are great, but they don't have that, and they are owning it, and they're doing what they should. They're being aggressive, and they're doing a great job at that. They boosted their payroll, hired Bob Melvin. They take it seriously, it seems, and so that's the first thing. They are obviously the kings of the local landscape right now, and are acting as such. Both in their way they're being aggressive, but that being responsible for that. It's like, hey man, we want to be proud of you. Make us proud, and this offseason showing that. The Aztecs, I feel the Aztecs are the untapped jewel, and I hope that this new stadium, along with the perfect timing of Brady Hoke really picking up from Rocky Long and looking like he's building a program, I hope we get people in that stadium. Aztecs football has always been, you know, really hot and cold, and a lot more cold when it comes to fans getting out there. And I hope that people who aren't Aztecs fans, who are just maybe college football fans, embrace the experience at the new stadium, and that people get down there. Maybe you don't go all the time, but get down there at least once if you live in San Diego, and support this kind of cool thing we have going. Because I think it is, and I think they're in a good place. And I think they're on the precipice of being, I don't know. I don't know where that level is. I don't know if it's at the top of the just below, like Power Six conferences and schools. I don't know where that sits, and that's not trying to be faint praise. I'm just not sure where they end up. I'm a Trojan, and sorry, but going out and getting Lincoln Riley and the improvements they've had at the Coliseum, they're ready to once again be the West Coast program. Period.
Mm-hmm.
That's just going to happen. But SDSU has a great brand. Their uniforms are awesome. They've got a good coach, and they're going to have this great stadium. And I hope that, well, first and foremost, all the Aztecs alum and students get out to that stadium and pack it, but even people who aren't Aztecs get out there. And then I think there are other things that are great going. I didn't get a chance to go in person, and I'm mad at myself for that. But everything I hear about Loyal games they're great experiences. San Diego Loyal soccer team, they are building it right. The fan experience is great. I know they're very aggressive about getting out and engaging with the community. They're great about engaging in the fans after the games. I've only heard good things. I think there are big things coming for them, and they're doing things right. The goals, of course, are fantastic. They've always been very proactive, and I think that they're just I think they're just one of those things we count on here in San Diego to be a fun experience. And I think the Sockers are the right there with them as far as fan engagement and fan embrace. They're really part of San Diego sports. So those are the things I think of jump out right now. We'll see how the women's professional soccer goes. Big name to launch that, boy. So having Alex Morgan to hang your hat on, that's not a bad thing. So I think it's a good landscape, and I think that I hope that people more and more are embracing what we do have as opposed to worrying about what we don't have. Okay, so we don't have an NFL team, we don't have an NBA team. So what? I mean, we're close. If you really want that experience, you can go see it. We have great sports here. We have plenty of great family-friendly venues and experiences and great ways to enjoy it. And that's where I'm at. Enjoy what you have here. Be proud of that. Push your local teams to be excellent, Padres, and embrace what we have.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, I think I ate up half your pod there.
Oh, beautifully said. Moving kind of to you, kind of with your fandom, obviously now in San Diego. You mentioned you went to USC. I heard you grew up a Dodger fan.
Yeah.
How weird is that, I guess? Are you still you're still that Dodger fan and just kind of supporting the Padres when they're, doing well and not playing the Dodgers, but you're still rooting for the Dodgers?
So think about yourself in your age, right? Mm-hmm. And think about yourself like at 30, being in a different town and people telling you, well, you can't, and loving that town and making it your home and embracing what it is, but you're still going to have your love for your hometown Friars.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're not going to start growing an affection for where you live and what's going on there. And after being here for most of the last 18 years, I mean, I know what's going on with that team and that organization. And I will tell you, when I was here in the mid-20s and when they passed up on drafting the first, the legendary draft where, oh gosh, who am I forgetting that they drafted first overall? Our local
Bush.
Yeah. When they drafted him, when there was just a fleet of major league ready arms to go, and it was, you could just tell the organization just was nowhere near being serious to where it is now, to where it's very serious. And I'm really impressed with what they're doing. I root for them. I root for the team. It's just when they go head to head, that's the only time that I'm like, I can't, I got to step aside. I'm still a Dodgers fan, but I would never root for the Padres to lose so that the Dodgers gained in the standings. Just wouldn't do it. It's only head to head. But I still,
that's the weird dynamic. I think most fans, and I kind of lean on this side too. Like, it's like, okay, well, if you like the Dodgers, then you're not a real Dodger fan if you're okay with the Padres doing well, and the vice versa. Like, so it's just a weird, dynamic where I guess there can be some fans like you that they're just respectful of all sides. They want sides to do well. It's not hate
totally.
This. Yeah.
There are Dodgers fans on Twitter who they come at me because I speak positively about the Padres, and I genuinely do root for them most of the time. I'm like, it's my hometown. I genuinely have affection for them. I know people who work for the Padres, so their success is good for my friends. So it's all those things matter to me.
Right. All right. Moving to the team now. What have you thought so far about the offseason? Trading Adam Frazier, acquiring Jorge Alfaro, letting Melanson go to the Diamondbacks. That was kind of weird to me, at least, for $7 million a year, and then bringing in Luis Garcia and Robert Suarez. Looks like now Nick Martinez as well. Just what have you thought about their offseason?
Closer position is so bizarre, unless you have there are a few guys who perpetually are at the top. So it's so volatile, and, you're in a podcast, so you know how volatile closers are. And, so do you invest that much in the position, or do you take a risk that you can develop one? And there's plenty of evidence. And you've got a guy coming in, Bob Melvin, who's had to develop closers, who's had to work within budget constraints, who understands that part of it, even though he'll have much more of a budget now. That's not a big eyebrow raiser to me, just because, again, the nature of the spot, right? I think with the Padres, a lot of what's going on to me is just getting healthy. We'll see what happens with Clevenger coming back. We'll see what happens with a healthy roster next year, and with a different manager, and hopefully a healthier clubhouse. Because to me, that's what this past season was all about. I don't think I don't think you can have that kind of payroll with those kind of personalities and not have somebody who's got a real command. And Jace, all accounts, is a great guy, knows way more baseball than I'll ever forget. But I think you needed somebody like Bob Melvin in there to really be able to wrangle what needed to be wrangled.
Yeah. And it's a good point, because I think that sometimes with Tingler, I mean, he worked well with the media from what I saw. He was a good communicator there, but it was just interesting, the clubhouse dynamic, because, it felt like the players are probably pushing for Ron Washington, with against Jace Tingler in that last managerial cycle. And it looked like they were just done with Tingler. They needed that experience, that guy that can come in and, has that authority, has the experience, and has that respect.
Yeah,
you don't
has
have
the
to earn
track
it.
record.
Yeah, exactly.
In all fairness to Tingler too, I don't know how much of, I don't have any inside anything on this. I don't know how much the Hosmer situation was something that just blew stuff up. I don't know if he was floated in a bunch of trades. I don't know if people in the clubhouse assumed he began. And then there's his on-field performance. I don't know. So, and I don't know how much that any manager could have impacted that particular bomb, except by not playing him. But I do think that that's something that we have to look at the organization with, and I'm really curious to see if Hosmer's on that opening day roster.
You nailed it. That's my next question. Do you think that, it's going to be easier for the Padres to make more additions with a big power bat or two bats, depending on the DH and all that, if they get some flexibility by, giving away a hot part of Hosmer's contract, or giving away all of Myers' 1 year left on his contract, which is going to be easier to move, to be just honest. Do you think that one of them are moved before opening day?
Could be both. I think at least one of them has to be. I think at least. It is funny. I've seen one thing I will say, I've heard people say, well, it might be the time to take advantage of Cronenworth's value and trade him for
no.
Okay, look, Cronenworth, and this is Dodger fan, talking, right? Look, I will tell you, look at Chris Taylor. Okay.
Yeah, that's like saying with 4 years left on Chris Taylor's contract with the Dodgers, let's trade him away.
You have a guy who fixes your roster day in, day out, because he can play all over and play all over very well, and hits. Just the value of that. And people love him. Like, why? Just
he's their third best hitter. Yeah.
Yeah. People floating that was like, don't do this. Don't talk about this. That's one thing I'll say, roster construction wise, because, flexibility over, baseball's changed over 162 games. Very few guys are playing game in, game out. And so having a guy you can plug in wherever for rest days for different players, injury, nicks, whatever, is so critical. So that's one thing. Don't mess with that.
Yeah. And if I'm going to add on that Cronenworth thing, last year, 4.8 WAR, 21 home runs, over 70 RBIs, and 800 OPS. He played 152 of the 162 games. So, and we all love Fernando Tatis Jr., and the only way we love him because of how he plays on the field. And for him to play on the field, you want him to be healthy. And he can be healthy by getting him off his feet a little bit, or using that DH this coming year, and you can put Jake at shortstop.
Yep.
And that's it. He just solves so many things. He's their third best hitter, 4 more years of control. And you're not paying him a lot. It's just, there's so many positives of Jake Cronenworth. And it's like, okay, what would trading him do? I don't understand who you're going to get back that is better than Jake Cronenworth and the situation that he's in right now.
None,
right?
And you nailed it. None. I think you probably, I think some people were tying it to the, the Hosmer and Myers situations as possibly being something to solve that. I think that's, you do that with prospects, and as much as it hurts moving, as long as as much as it hurts moving prospects, I think your major league roster, again, like I said, right now, if you can stay healthy, and that's a tool to management, the DH and players like that. I think you look at your minor league system, and if you have to get rid of something that hurts a little, but you're getting rid of Hosmer and it gives you flexibility to do some other things, you do it.
Yeah. if they do make some of these moves, create more flexibility, there were rumors before the lockout that the Padres were interested in Chris Bryant in free agency and Nicholas Castellanos. There's been kind of debate, who would you rather have? So I'll ask you that question. Who would you rather have? I know you're a Dodger fan, so you'd probably want to pick the worst one, but who would you rather have if you're the GM of the Padres?
I like Bryant for on and off the field reasons. I think that I think he could have a renaissance here. He was really good. He tailed off down the stretch a little bit last year, but again, much like Crone, he's a guy you can put at multiple spots. You give Machado a day off and put him at third even. That's a guy that can play multiple positions well and carries that kind of bat. Hopefully he can continue. I like him. I mean, he's won a championship. He's the fit for me.
Okay. Before the lockout, I kind of, talked about this. Melanson, went to the Diamondbacks, 2 years, $14 million. I was surprised by it. I was kind of disappointed in both sides. Melanson obviously signed with the Padres last year, said that he did it because he wanted to win. He wanted to be on a contender. And then he signs with the Diamondbacks. Then from the Padres perspective, he had a track record of staying healthy. Obviously an all-star last year, a closer. I just don't see – there wasn't a huge risk, I don't think, in giving him 2 years. Seidler said that he's willing to eat money. So if that didn't even work out the second year, let's say. So I was kind of disappointed on both sides. Where do you stand on, what happened with Melanson going to Arizona?
Oh, like I said earlier, I think that I think you're hearing my email coming through. I forgot to close down that window. I'm gonna do that real quick. So
no problem.
You can edit that out, but if not, folks, I just had to stop the dinging. I think that's, you had a great year out of him, but I don't know that, I don't think that what he had was irreplaceable. And I think that, again, Melvin's experience is going to help you solve that. I think bullpens are so volatile, and whether it's a committee, whether it's one guy emerges, I think that back end's going to be fine. I really do. There's always, they can say all want, there's always budgetary concerns and for any team. And, where it comes into play is we might be willing to go over this number for certain people, but is he really worth it for our needs and resources right now? Maybe not. Maybe they have already identified in a trade somebody they think they could get with a prospect. I'm not sure, but I don't think their 2022 season does not rest on that.
And I guess a positive from them not bringing him back is you do have to trust that, the history that the Padres have of having good closers, regardless of if it's for 1 year or longer. Obviously Trevor, Yates, Hand, Fernando Rodney. I mean, it's just, you could keep naming off names, Heath Bell. So
and that's why.
you just have to trust the track record, the history of the team. Last one here, since obviously, you're a Dodger fan, grew up a Dodger fan. I'm interested to know your thoughts on how the Padres stack up with them, with the Giants. I know it's the offseason, it's obviously a lockout and there's still a lot of moves to be made, but with the Dodgers losing Seager, losing Scherzer, losing Knebel, do you think the Padres are, closer to the Dodgers right now?
I thought they were close last year, and I think the Melvin thing is the biggest move to get them closer, because the kind of free fall the Padres had last season did not reflect, to me, the talent on the roster. So to me, there were multiple things going on. I think getting to the postseason is the first thing, and in the West, that's hard. It's going to be really tough. The Giants have shown that as an organization, they figured some things out in my mind. And there was some fluky aspects of this year, but I would say bet against them big picture at your own peril. But you have two guys who can wreck teams, just the two of them, just absolutely wreck teams. And in playoffs, having bats like Machado and Tatis in your lineup, those kinds of true superstars, and building around them, you can win anything. I firmly believe that, because I don't think people. I think we in San Diego do appreciate it, but I'm not sure we really fully appreciate just how special Tatis is sometimes, because to me he is just a game wrecker, and he would terrify me in a postseason matchup. Machado too, not he's not quite the same level, but he's not that far behind, and they are as good. And Tatis at his best, I think, is better than anybody in the National League. You have those players, and you have a shot at anything. So I don't know. The 162 game slog, it's hard to figure out in the West who's going to come out on top. But I think both those teams, all three of those teams, are all very much in play for the playoffs.
Definitely. All right, Carlo, thank you so much. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, the Dodgers, they have a lot of work to do. I don't know what, they've shown that they always have a plan. They've got some interesting prospects coming up. People think they traded away the farm, and then late in the season and in the winter leagues, you start hearing about Bobby Miller and what he's throwing, and he starts being in the conversation for somebody who can make an impact on that rotation, maybe the back end, even this coming year. You got Ryan Pepio, who's an arm. You got Andre. You've got some stuff coming up in there, so it'll be interesting to see what they have from that. And then they're going to sign one or two guys who are going to overperform compared to what they've been in the past. That's just been their record.
Right. All right, Carlo, this has been a great conversation. Ben Fadden here, Talking Friars, episode 81. Have a great weekend, everyone. Great week. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.